Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, what's up, Las Vegas? It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. We are broadcasting live. It is Thursday, and we're broadcasting live, as always, since this coronavirus situation started, from my apartment, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we are here. We are live, and we got a lot to get to, a lot to go over. Plenty of topics. There's no question about that. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, a man by the name of David C. Unger. He's a teacher and author. He is trapped in Italy. He's an American. As you know, if you're in Italy right now, you're not getting out of there. You're certainly not coming to this country, understandably so. So we'll be joining him. He is live calling us from Italy, so that'll be coming up here in just a few minutes. Obviously, Donald Trump and Dr. Fauci, I've been saying it for weeks now that they are not on the same page, and we have the audio evidence to prove it. You have Donald Trump, we spoke about it yesterday, talking about how he wants to reopen everything by Easter. He wants the churches to be full. Dr. Fauci singing a different tune yesterday on national television. We have the audio. We will play that coming up in hour number 2. And, of course, we will be taking your calls. Hour number 3, I love this guy. He's a friend of the show. Love having him on. He's a 6-time World Series of Poker champion. For the most part, one of the faces, if not the face of poker for the last 20 years. He's Danny Negreanu, also known as Real Kid Poker. So how is this coronavirus affecting him? Obviously it is. He's a professional gambler. You certainly can't play in any of the casinos. Is the World Series of Poker going to happen in a few months? Well, the WSOP, they have not made any official announcements yet that it is postponed. Is it going to be an online WSOP? We'll talk to Danny Negreanu. Also, he's a huge, mega Vegas Golden Knights fan. Is there going to be an NHL season? Is there going to be a playoffs? So Danny will be joining us coming up in hour number 3. Also, I don't want to use the term interesting, but certainly Republicans are finding it interesting. There is an accuser that is claiming that Joe Biden sexually assaulted her back in 1993. This is the first time many of us have heard of this story. We all know that Joe Biden, at times has some inappropriate touching, but not sexual. This brings something to a whole new level. Is she telling the truth? Do you believe her? We will talk about this story coming up in hour number 3. So as I said, a lot to go over, a lot to get to. It's a really sad day if you're a sports fan. I mean, it's a sad day every day since this coronavirus thing broke out. But today was supposed to be opening day for Major League Baseball. That's right. Today was supposed to be opening day. So if you're a baseball fan, you're really depressed today. Not only that, I'm a huge college basketball fan. I just love college basketball. I love basketball. Today was supposed to be the Sweet 16. Today was supposed to be day 1 of the Sweet 16 games, and then this weekend we were supposed to have the Elite 8. And then by Sunday, correct me if I'm wrong, we were supposed to have a Final Four set in place. So this is a sad day if you're a sports fan. This was supposed to be a great day of sports. And then we need to remember those who've lost their lives. We need to remember, we have over 60,000 cases, correct me if I'm not, in this country of people that are infected by the coronavirus. And now we are approaching the number close to 1,000 of those who have lost their lives.
Yeah, we're at about 69,500 and 1,040 deaths. We passed the 1,000
in the last hour.
The 1,000 death mark. No, we passed that last night.
Okay, because I saw a graphic on CNN this morning that said a little over 900. But now we are over 1,000. We have, as you mentioned, over 66,000 people that have been affected at one way or another with this virus. So while all this stuff is going on, right, and obviously this is an extremely serious situation. While all this stuff is going on, we have some idiots out there that are mocking the virus. And I'm not talking about some of the Republicans. I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about just regular, everyday people that are not politicians. I don't know what their political affiliation is, and frankly, I don't care. A story coming out that a woman purposely coughed on $35,000 worth of food at a Pennsylvania grocery store. They're saying that she likely faces criminal charges for coughing, one of the primary ways, of course, that you can contract the coronavirus. The unnamed woman, they're saying, entered this small grocery chain called Jerry's Supermarket. Apparently, it's in Pennsylvania. And she started coughing on the produce. That's not all. Then she went to the bakery section. She started intentionally coughing on some of the donuts and some of the other stuff. It's not funny. It's just, the reason why I'm chuckling is because it's so ridiculous. She's such a moron. And then she choked on some of the meat and the merchandise. This is according to co-owner Joe Fasula. He wrote this out on Facebook. So then staff quickly removed her, thank God, from the store, called the police. They found her a few hours later, took her into custody. The woman intentionally contaminated the food. According to the police, they plan to file criminal charges against her once her mental health treatment concludes. Listen, if you walk into a supermarket or anywhere and you intentionally cough on somebody in the times that we are living in today, even if it's not the coronavirus times, there's something mentally wrong with you.
Right,
You're deranged. But this woman was taken into custody. Listen, I think she should go to jail for a while.
Yeah, she's a criminal in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think she should go to jail.
Is she positive for the coronavirus?
They're saying she is not, thank God.
Okay.
If she was positive for the coronavirus, it's the same thing as if you have AIDS and you know you have AIDS and you're intentionally trying to give other people AIDS and having sex with them. It's the same thing. I mean, to me, that's murder. That's murder. If she had the virus. But even if you don't have the virus, police have the right to arrest you and file charges.
And I've actually seen a lot of videos online of different people doing things like that. I saw a guy in an elevator who was he put his hands down his pants and he took his hand and he put it in his mouth and then he rubbed it all over the buttons on an elevator. I saw a woman wipe her snot all over a park bench. I mean, there's been a lot of nasty things like this that have taken place, and hopefully it stops very soon.
So the owner of the store said, I'm absolutely sick to my stomach about the loss of food. And to me, this is what's really sad, is that in a time when people are in need, certainly there are food banks out there and there are ways that people can be helped. $35,000 worth of food. Do you know how much food that is? That's incredible.
Well, I mean, is it really a loss if she's not positive for the virus, though?
You cannot serve food. There are health codes. You cannot serve food.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but you cannot serve food to somebody after somebody coughs on them. You just can't do that. And it's a precautionary
I'm sure
measure.
I've been in a grocery store at some point in my life and I've sneezed or I've coughed. It wasn't on purpose.
That might be possible, but that's a health code violation. You cannot serve that food, and I don't blame them for throwing it away. $35,000 worth of food. Still not clear, though, what the charges this woman will be facing or whether she is going to be getting some mental health treatment. I would imagine she will, but on yesterday, the Department of Justice confirmed that people who intentionally spread the virus could be charged with terrorism. It could be a terror. You know how serious that is?
It's bioterrorism at that point.
Yeah.
If you know that you have the virus and you're trying to spread it in public places where people, when they're not at home, they're going to get the things that they need to live their life, it should be bioterrorism, in my opinion.
Forget about whether or not they have the coronavirus or not. People need fresh produce right now. They need groceries. They had this one store had to throw out at a time like this, throw out $35,000 worth of fruit and vegetables. That alone, I don't care if this woman has the coronavirus. That alone should be a crime.
But it doesn't end there, folks. It doesn't end there, because now we have a internet sensation who decided to put his tongue on a toilet seat, and now he has the coronavirus. Stein, what can you tell us about this story?
See, the millennial thinks it's funny. This must be a sense of humor that you and I, Brian, we're a little older than JD. We must not get this sense of humor.
No, it's just the irony of the situation that I find hilarious.
California social media prankster who calls himself Lars. Have you heard of this guy?
Never have, no.
Is he a member of Metallica?
No, it's not Lars Ulrich.
Okay.
He goes by the name of Lars just days after posting a video of himself licking a toilet bowl in an online challenge that's been going around. Well, he's been hospitalized with the coronavirus. The TikTok personality reportedly posted the footage of himself in a hospital bed. I tested positive for coronavirus, the 21-year-old from Beverly Hills tweeted. And by the way, he has since been his account has since been suspended. It comes days after the prankster who goes. It comes 2 days after a prankster who goes by the social media handle Gay Shawn Mendes posted a video of himself on Friday running his tongue across a public toilet as part of his bizarre and widely criticized coronavirus challenge. And then I also, guys, saw there was somebody online, another one of these millennial idiots, who licked a row of deodorant in a drugstore, like a Walgreens or something.
These people need to not get probation. Don't give them a fine. Minimum 6 months in jail. If you're dumb enough to do something like this and you put people in harm's way, you need to go to jail.
And especially if the food or whatever they're trying to contaminate is not usable, they better pay back the grocery stores or
I think
whoever else
a good punishment for this guy would be, JD, after you go number 2, make this guy lick the toilet seat. That would be a good punishment, I believe.
Lars has a history of doing this. Apparently, the social media influencer has appeared on the Dr. Phil show, where he drew criticism for boasting about how he had licked tubs of ice cream before putting them back in store freezers. He has claimed he has made lots of money from his online following.
What a moron. Oh, my goodness. Don't feel sorry for him at all. Don't feel sorry for him at all, in the least. And now, Kathy Griffin is back in the news. If you recall, several years back, when Donald Trump, I believe it was right after he won the election, Kathy Griffin showed a fake severed head of Donald Trump. She held it up, and it really, I'm going to say it ruined her career. It really did, because she was very popular at that time.
As it should have.
And it was inappropriate. She's apologized for it, but she's been openly criticizing Donald Trump for many years, and now she's back at it again. She checked herself into a hospital. She said she had unbearable, painful symptoms, and now she's speaking against Donald Trump's response to the coronavirus tweet. In a coronavirus tweet, Griffin accused Trump of lying about how many coronavirus tests the United States has performed amid the ongoing pandemic. She said, "I was sent to the isolation ward, the COVID-19 isolation ward room in a major hospital, ER, from a separate urgent care facility." She tweeted this out on Wednesday. She went on to criticize the vice president's leadership of the White House coronavirus task force. She said the hospital couldn't test me for coronavirus. So I understand her frustration. I mean, she's had some pretty bad symptoms, she claims, fever, sweats, and she checked herself into a hospital. And even a celebrity, and she still is a celebrity, even somebody like Kathy Griffin cannot be tested for the coronavirus. I mean, I heard an interview yesterday on Cuomo on CNN where he was interviewing a senator, and she was tested for the coronavirus, but they told her it could be between 2 and 10 days before they give her a result. This is a senator. And now Kathy Griffin's in the hospital, someone who has money, someone who's a celebrity, maybe not an A-lister anymore, but a celebrity, and they refuse to test her even though she has all the symptoms. And I understand she's not 50, 60 years old. She probably doesn't have, and I'm assuming this, doesn't have any underlying health problems. But what do you guys make of this story? Because now she's going out and calling the president a liar, putting forth her frustration to the administration and the vice president. Probably not a good idea for her to do that now, considering the fact that she's trying to get some help and she's trying to get tested. But with that being said, what do you guys make of this story?
Well, I think that the United States has actually tested a lot of people, especially in New York State. There's a reason why there's 70,000 almost confirmed cases, and in Nevada we've got 404 cases now, and there's been 5,000 tested. So that the numbers are actually coming out that about 90% of those who are tested don't actually have the coronavirus, and the testing has been certainly ramped up the last couple of weeks, and it'll keep improving, especially with the new testing kits that are being created by all these different companies.
I think there's no scarier sight than Kathy Griffin without makeup.
I did see a picture. She is whiter than I am, and that's difficult. But she said he's lying. I was sent to the isolation ward room in a major hospital ER from a separate urgent care facility after showing unbearably painful symptoms. The hospital couldn't test me for the coronavirus because the CDC, the Pence Task Force, restrictions. And then she goes, #test. I understand her frustration. Obviously, we're living in times right now in a perfect world or a perfect country for that matter, where if you have symptoms, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what your underlying conditions are. You should be tested. There's certainly no excuse for that. This country was not prepared for it.
If you have severe symptoms like a fever,
which she has,
like legitimate shortness of breath to the point where she needs to be on a ventilator. I mean, to get tested in this country right now, you have to have severe symptoms, or they're going to send you home and they're going to say self-isolate for 14 days,
which shouldn't be the case. And that's my point. We should have been prepared for this. In the richest country in the world, we should have been prepared for a pandemic like this. And clearly, no matter who you want to put the blame on, no matter what political side of the aisle you're on, we all need to agree that this country was not prepared for this. The proof is in the pudding here. And I'm not even bringing up the administration. I'm just saying in general terms, this country was not prepared for this type of pandemic. And as I mentioned to start the show, yes, people are dying. People are scared. People are worried. Where are they going to get their next paycheck from? And it's one thing that this country loves. It's sports. Sports is kind of like a gateway drug to an extent. It kind of keeps you, I guess, involved in other things. Get your mind off maybe some of the tough things that are going on in your life.
On the positive side of the coronavirus, so people being infected with the coronavirus in sports, UNLV's own Christian Wood has now overcome the virus. He's recovered fully, as has New Orleans Saints head coach Sean Payton. So a couple of athletes who were confirmed coronavirus positive are now negative, and they've recovered from the virus.
So the reason why I brought up sports and the reason why I was bringing that up again, because it's kind of crazy, as I mentioned today, was supposed to be, opening day for Major League Baseball. And, being a college basketball junkie, today was supposed to be the Sweet 16. And last night, I'm hanging out at a friend's house, and we're thinking to each other, gosh, there's nothing to bet on. We haven't gambled on anything. Nobody can bet on anything, really, right? So we go to 7-Eleven, and I look at my William Hill phone app, and I notice to myself, you can bet on ping pong, also known as table tennis. That's right. So I deposited
Just to be clear, Brian, when you say friend, you mean Chris Wynn.
Yes, that's what we're talking about. So I deposited $100 in my William Hill account for purely entertainment value only. And I bet on some ping pong matches last night. And here's the great part about it. We watched the matches live. We were watching table tennis live. We had to download some sort of app. It was, I think it was called the TT Cup. I don't Table Tennis Cup. I don't know. Setco Cup, something like that. So we're watching these people from the Ukraine, these older guys from the Ukraine who look like they're from a scene of that show To Catch a Predator. We're watching these weirdos wearing their nut huggers, playing table tennis, wearing the headbands, and I'm telling you, it was strange. It was odd. And the whole time we're watching the table tennis, the person that keeps score? There's the judge. She was unbelievably hot. So me and Chris were just staring at her throughout the whole match, not even paying attention to the match. And we're watching these middle-aged weirdos playing table tennis, and we're betting on these matches. I am very happy to say I won $40 last night. I think I might start my own sports handicapping toting service, table tennis picks. I might do that.
How's that compare with sumo wrestling? You did sumo wrestling last week.
So here's the problem with sumo wrestling, besides the fact that you're looking at, for the most part, naked 300-pound men. If that's not bad enough. That's funny, but after a while it gets disgusting.
300. Come on, you mean 400, 500, 600.
So the weird part about that is they do all these rituals before the match starts, and these matches literally last 3 or 4 seconds. They last about the same amount of time that an orgasm would last. I mean, that's what these matches are lasting here. And when you look at a table tennis match, you got a good 15 or 20 minutes of action. It's kind of fun. It's more enjoyable. Let me just put it that way.
You also understand it, though, Brian. I mean, you were one of the best table tennis players in the country in your age group for quite some time.
I was a very good table tennis player back in the day.
You were a national champion, from what I understand.
I was. But let me tell you something, okay? When you're watching these Ukrainian professional table tennis players that are probably making $20,000 a year, and you're telling me there are betting lines up there, I am very skeptical. And I would say that some of these professional middle-aged Ukrainian ping pong players might be taking book. That's all I'm saying. So
could you compete against these guys based on what you saw now?
I'll be honest with you. These guys were not the top 20, 30 players in the world. Their rankings were top 200. I could have competed against them. They would have beaten me just because I'm not in ping pong form right now. I'm not in ping pong shape. But
so like what are the standard specifications required to be in quote unquote ping pong shape, Brian?
Well, first of all, you have to have really good eye-hand coordination.
Well, you have that.
You can't be 300.
You can't really lose that though.
You can't look like a sumo wrestler and expect to be a very good table tennis player.
I feel like you need torque, right? You got to
No, not really.
So you got to make to strengthen your side muscles and your abs?
No, that's not true.
You don't need that at all?
No, you don't need that. What you do need is fantastic eye-hand coordination and very good reflexes. And I think that's the main thing. You have to be in decent shape. I don't think you have to be in as good a shape as say, a Novak Djokovic on the tennis court. But you have to be in pretty good shape. I mean, you look at, the professional table tennis players of the last 30 or 40 years, the top players in the world are all in pretty good shape. I mean, it's regardless of what some people might think, we're not talking about basement ping pong. We're actually talking about, professionals. And it's incredible. They really are incredible. These guys, they didn't look very, very incredible. They didn't look that great. But I'm betting matches on table tennis and sumo wrestling over the course of the last week. That's incredible in itself.
Yeah, that's actually very, very interesting. So what was your process for handicapping this table tennis match? When you decided to put money on person A or person B?
Very simply put, their head-to-head matchup.
That's really it?
Their head-to-head, yeah. That's it. I don't know anything about these guys. Obviously, I don't follow the professional Ukrainian table tennis circuit. Forgive me for not being that knowledgeable. But no, just a quick look up. Here's the crazy part. There's literally nobody in there. You have these two middle-aged men that are playing ping pong against each other. You got this hot chick, and I'm talking she was smoking hot, right? I'm talking Tommy Lauren hot, right? She was smoking hot, and I see she's taking the score, and I'm thinking to myself, how are these two guys even concentrating? That's how hot she was. I'm thinking to myself, how are they doing it?
Was it empty in there because no one gives a damn about two middle-aged Ukrainian men playing table tennis, or was it because of the coronavirus and they couldn't have crowds?
It was because of the coronavirus. Apparently, the SEPCA Table Tennis Ukrainian Cup is a big tournament. I mean, I don't know. I guess it is.
Normally it is.
Yeah, normally it is. But there's going to be more matches tonight. So, mark my words, my friend. I'm going to be on no sleep. I'm going to be betting on table tennis all night tonight in the middle of the night at Chris Wynn's disgusting house. All night tonight I'm going to be betting on table tennis. And they have in-game wagering.
Damn this virus.
You can bet in-game wagering on these professional table tennis matches. Listen, this is serious stuff. I'm going to try to send a ping pong ball for one of these guys to sign for me if they win me some money tonight. But, yes, I'm up $40, which is great because in this day and age where you're getting a lot of pizza deliveries and a lot of food deliveries, that's a couple meals for me, thanks to the Ukrainian Table Tennis Association. So I want to thank them for that. And I am very hopeful that the judge for the matches tonight does not look like you, Stein. I hope that it's the same woman that is there doing the matches. It was actually fun to watch.
Okay, here's my advice: just don't get carried away. I mean, don't become don't become addicted to betting on table tennis because, you could easily, you're depressed right now. You could easily go downhill very quickly.
Speak for yourself, man. I'm not depressed. Speak for
I
yourself.
would imagine they max your bets out. You can't get too aggressive with it.
I wonder what the maximum bet is to play. They don't want a Ukrainian table.
They don't want a huge Ukrainian table tennis handle.
All right, that's enough. That's enough table tennis for the morning. I think we've covered table tennis enough. Coming up next, we'll be speaking with David C. Unger. He is a teacher and author, an American who is basically trapped in Italy. He's going to be calling us live from Italy. Coming up next on the Vegas Take, right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDUN. We'll be back right after this. All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us live on a Thursday. Don't worry, we'll take your phone calls coming up in hour number 2, and we'll be talking a little bit about why Dr. Fauci and Donald Trump seem to be on different ends of the spectrum, certainly when it comes to a time frame of when things are going to clear up or open up in this country. We'll get back to that coming up in hour number 2. But the guy joining us on the line right now he's in Italy. He's a teacher and an author. And as you know, Italy is the worst right now, the worst country in the world right now when it comes to deaths and the coronavirus and a lot of difficult issues that country is facing. His name is David C. Unger, and he joins us right now on the line. David, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing good, David.
Doing great, David.
How long have you been in Italy since? Have you been there since the start of this virus broke out?
I've been in Italy since September of 2007.
So you've been there a long, long time. So as an American,
yeah.
So you're a teacher and an author. So as an American, is it scary to you, even though you've been there since 2007, is it scary to you that, even if you wanted to leave the country right now, you couldn't?
Well, my wife and I had to make a decision whether we were safer staying in place or making a run through trains, airports, airport quarantines at both ends. And since we don't own a house in the U.S., hotels and other things like that, we decided that we'd be better off staying here. We're comfortable here. We're reasonably safe here. Like everyone else in the world, we're a little anxious about what's going on, but this seems our safest option for now.
So you've been there since 2007, so you've been there for 13 years. The obvious statement would be why there's so many deaths in Italy. Well, there's a lot of people that are maybe elderly more than some other countries. Would you agree with that? And what is your explanation in your experience in living there? Why is Italy having so many issues with this virus more than many other countries across the world?
What I honestly think is because we got a head start. I'm looking at the numbers in the U.S. and Spain and places like that are catching up rapidly to where we were a week ago. So, yes, Italy has had a worse hit than China. China, as a totalitarian country, could clamp everything down in the ways a democratic country can't. There are hopeful signs now that we're at what's called the peak in Italy, which is to say the number of new cases is holding steady or dropping by the day. And that's called, flattening the curve, which would be good because the health system is stressed out in the worst hit areas of the country. And if it kept rising, it would be the same thing they're seeing in New York now. that the hospitals would be knocked out everywhere, not just for corona patients, but for all patients. So we might now be at the peak. We might be about 10 or 12 days ahead of where the U.S. is.
So are you in Lombardy, Bergamo, or where are you located specifically within Italy?
I'm located near Genoa, and the region here is called Liguria. It's not the worst hit region. It's I think it's about, of the 20 regions of Italy, we're about fifth or sixth worst. But the difference is enormous. In places like Bergamo and Brescia and even Milan, you're talking about 1 in less than 1,000 people, 1 in 900, 1 in 800 people affected. Here, well, it's comparable to that here, so that's the wrong set of numbers, but it's much less. We have 2,000 cases here, okay, in a region with about 1 million people. That's 2,000 known and tested cases. Obviously, there are cases out there that they don't know about. Some estimate 5 times as many as the official number. But in this region, the impact, mercifully and so far, has been less than it's been in Lombardia and the Milan region.
So what you're saying is very scary. You're saying that you believe Italy is about 10 to 15 days ahead of where the U.S. is now. So does that mean you're expecting that the U.S. in a couple weeks will be where you guys are at right now? Is that what you would expect?
Sadly, or worse. The feeling here is that the draconian restrictions, the lockdown on movement in the whole country, which dates to March 10th, started showing in our figures. They started leveling off 10 days later, March 20th.
Wow.
And
Is the country still on lockdown?
Country has been on lockdown since March 10th. Whole country. This morning they raised the fines. They've got the army out enforcing it. They're being very, very strict. You can't do anything unless you sign a form with criminal penalties if you violate it, saying you absolutely have to go out of the house. You have to go out either for medical treatment or buying food or just a very limited number of reasons. Or you work in a place that stays open like a food store or a pharmacy.
Gotcha. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with David Unger. He is a teacher and author. He is in Italy right now. Obviously, he's an American. Scary times, certainly scary times for everybody, especially if you're living in Italy. I just want you to take us back. I mean, what happened when you learned of this lockdown? What was that like for you and your wife, and how the heck are you passing the time?
Okay. It's a scary thing, and you could see it coming. We had the first case in Italy in late January, and there everybody thought, oh, well, these are people who went to China, and they've got it contained, so it'll just stay where it is. And then in late February, it broke out. It broke out in the areas of Lombardia and the neighboring province, which is called Emilia. And they barricaded about 12 towns. And then, again, people thought they'd contained it. They barricaded those towns. I want to emphasize that when Italy took the restrictions that it took in late February and early March, the feeling was they were being very strict. They were overreacting. They were being excessive. These were the strongest restrictions anywhere in the democratic world. And we thought, better safe than sorry, we should do that. And it turns out that they've had to ratchet it up 3 or 4 times. It wasn't adequate what they were doing. It took a while to close the schools. It took a while to ban travel between provinces if you were traveling in a private car. And maybe it just took time politically for people to be able to accept tighter restrictions. If they'd done the whole thing all at once, there might have been more grumbling and resistance to it. But we did not, take a loose attitude toward this or ignore it. We took Italy took what everyone felt, and rightly so, were very strong restrictions. The problem is they weren't strict enough and they weren't early enough. So we had this breakout. And now we may be getting that contained and to start march very slowly down the slope to where we can talk about when things might reopen again. It's not going to happen anytime very soon, as we talked about. So my wife and I could see it coming in late February after the explosion in the north. We started stockpiling food in the house, dried pasta, beans, canned, non-perishable stuff, and paper goods. So when the lockdown actually came 3 weeks ago, we didn't have to go out of the house for much shopping, and we're set. Now, fortunately, we're both writers, and I'm a teacher, so there's plenty of books in the house. There's plenty to do. My life before this was always finding enough time to do my reading, writing, and research. That's not a problem anymore. Obviously, much of my day is spent looking at coronavirus news on the internet. That's another thing. The internet is a real answer to the isolation. It's not the same as being with people, but it allows you to be in touch with people, to see them, to video call them, FaceTime or Skype or whatever. And that's a big plus. So it's not the circumstances I would have chosen. And it's a beautiful spring. The beach is almost within sight of me. I'd love to be out there, but people have it much, much worse. People who still have to go to work, people who run more risk, the frontline people, the people who are the checkout people in the food stores, the medical personnel who are now getting sick in alarming numbers. They're the people it really goes out for, or the people who, one way or another, Italy is a family culture. At some innocent family gathering, someone was there who brought the contagion from somewhere, and some unfortunate, probably elderly relative, picked it up and is now fighting for their life in a hospital or is for life in a hospital. So we're not into feeling sorry for ourselves. We're into feeling hunkered down, not happy about the situation, not knowing for sure where it's going to go and when, but realizing that there are people facing a lot greater risk than we're facing.
So you moved there in 2007. I would imagine you have a lot of friends in Italy. You've made a lot of friends in that time. Do you know anyone that has been adversely affected by this or that has died from this virus? And is it true that triage is taking place in some of the most hard-hit places in Italy?
First question is, no one I know has died or are in the hospital. You have to realize that as alarming as our figures are, yesterday there were 74,000 known infected people cumulatively. If you subtract the ones that have either been cured or died, there were 57,000. Population of the country is 60 million. All right, so that means that only 1 in 1,000 Italians is sick or known to be sick. So it's not that surprising when I tell you that no people we know. Then there's this town. This town lives on tourism, and obviously tourism is shut down and it's dead. But it's on the Mediterranean coast. It's not that easy to get to. There are a lot of second homes of people who live in the big cities, but they're not able to come here right now. So the locals who are in the town are somewhat, I said, it's a retirement community. They don't have to go to work. I'm not saying all of them, but we've been somewhat relatively sheltered from the storm, both this whole region of Genoa and Liguria and this particular town of Camogli has not had it as nearly as bad as some of the other places. When you say that, you have to say up to now.
Sure.
The new figures will be out in 20 minutes for today, and they could tell a different story.
Absolutely.
And
you're absolutely right. And we had, we're over 1,000 deaths in this country. We just surpassed 1,000 in the last hour. If you're just joining us, we are speaking with David Unger. He's a teacher and author, obviously an American, but has been living in Italy since 2007, and he's joining us live from his home in Italy. So I want to ask you a little bit about the political response. We've seen some videos online where some of these Italian mayors are yelling at people to stay home. Can you compare the political response in Italy to the response of Donald Trump? What can you tell us about that?
I'd rather not get into the American side. You're there. I'm not there. I know what I see on the internet and what I see on television. Let me talk about the Italian side. First of all, the governor of Liguria, a man by the name of Giovanni Totti, who he has really been a hero of protecting this area during the epidemic. What he did is he got out very, very, very early and saw that the crunch would come in intensive care facilities in the hospital and that the numbers anticipated were more than we had. And he got out ahead of the government in Rome, making not private orders, but the local government's orders to foreign countries, and got what we needed and expanded our intensive care facilities so that if this is in fact the peak, we've made it. You asked me earlier about triage. Other areas have not made it. You know, Lombardia, Bergamo, and Brescia, and particularly Cremona, three towns well known perhaps to tourists who go to Italy, are quite possibly doing that triage. I mean, nobody wants to say it out loud, but what they're doing is you've got 90, 100 ICU beds. You've got 150 people who need them. You're deciding that this person who's 55 and has no underlying conditions will probably survive. That person over there who's 77, has diabetes, high blood pressure, and has had 2 heart attacks, probably won't. So under any normal circumstances, that second person would get the ICU bed and the Herculean effort to save them no matter what. We can only speculate, we can't document that people are being denied, but doctors in those hospitals up there are saying we're faced with that kind of decision. And
no question. Yeah. Well, on a lighter note, Mr. Unger, I got to ask you a little bit about the food there in Italy. Can you tell me a little bit about where the places you visit there in Italy? And if I ever come out there to Italy, certainly it's not going to be anytime soon, I can tell you that. But if an American has never been to Italy before and they want to visit, where would you tell them to go? Where would you tell them to eat when all this stuff passes?
Well, like America, it's a big country, and it's got many different regions with many different food cultures, many different reasons for going there. In our 13 years here, we've been to almost every corner of Italy and love them all in different kinds of ways. What we have here right outside my window is we're near the area known as Cinque Terre, the 5 towns, which are these sea-coast villages, fishing villages that hang on hillsides. And this town, Camogli, is pretty much like that also. We've got the Mediterranean Sea. We've got fresh fish and seafood. We've got focaccia. We've got a wonderful local diet, wonderful local traditions, boat rides, whales, dolphins, anything you want to see. World-famous aquarium. The city of Genoa has the largest intact medieval quarter, if that's something that interests you. Then, all Americans have heard of Tuscany, if only through movies and books. And Tuscany has Florence and all the great works of art there, and Pisa and the Leaning Tower.
Wow.
Bologna is the agribusiness capital, is the sort of Chicago, Kansas City food-producing region, because most of Italy is mountainous, and that you really, most of the food-producing area, it's like the Central Valley of California, except it's the valley of the Po River, which goes across from Turin through Milan, down through Bologna, out toward near Venice, where it hits the Adriatic Sea. So that's a different area. Then there's Venice. I don't have to tell you about Venice.
Right.
There's Rome, and you've heard of that. There are places.
What about the Venetian? I'm sorry, that was a horrible joke, Mr. Unger. that's about as close as I've ever been to Italy, David. To be honest with you, is the Venetian. That's it for me. Hey, we're up against a break, David. But let me just say this: thoughts and prayers to everyone in Italy. We're glad that you and your wife are healthy and you guys are doing well. And I just want to thank you so much for joining us and kind of giving us a little bit of information of what that country has had to go through. Stay safe, David. We really appreciate you taking some time to join us, and maybe we can talk to you again a little bit more down the road, David.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and we really appreciate you. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thanks a lot, David.
That is David Unger, teacher and author. He's in Italy with his wife. Even if he wanted to leave the country, he couldn't. But we certainly appreciate him taking some time to join us. So we're going to take a quick break, and we will get back to your calls in 30 seconds. 702-257-5396. You're listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN. All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Thursday. Coming up here, we're going to talk a little bit about how it appears to me, anyway, after I play this audio, that Dr. Fauci and Donald Trump are on opposite ends of the spectrum as far as when this thing is going to end. But I promised I would get to your calls. My understanding is we got a lot of people who have been waiting very patiently on hold. So let's get to those calls coming up next, and I believe we have Doug first up. Doug, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Doug?
Guys, a couple quick comments. For the guys on Facebook that are licking toilet bowls and whatnot, the flip side is you have people sending out, vultures out there trying to take people's money as well. You can always count on a crisis to bring out people's true colors.
No, you're right. I could not agree with you more. And it's a good point you just mentioned, because if you remember 9/11, I thought the country really came together. At least for a short time, they came together. And I always remember George W. Bush with that megaphone, at the site of the towers. I thought that was the best moment of his presidency. I don't know if we have any of those moments from Donald Trump. I'm sorry. I just don't think we do. I thought that was and listen, to be honest with you, Doug, I was never a big George W. Bush fan, but I thought that moment, and you remember, I think, what I'm talking about. He takes that megaphone. He says, "We hear you. The world hears you." I got goosebumps. I said, what a great moment. The president showing some leadership. We need moments like that from Donald Trump.
And within 3 to 6 months, we were in a major war.
Yeah. You're exactly right.
The second comment was, when you were talking about, New York wasn't prepared. I don't think anyone ever can be prepared for this. I mean, Cuomo was on the other day saying they needed 30,000 ventilators. I mean,
I agree.
That's cost prohibitive. There's no way.
Yeah, it would cost
for that have that kind of money.
Right. We talked about it yesterday. Cuomo had the opportunity to purchase 15,000 plus ventilators. It would have cost $570 million. So do the math, $300 million, even with a minor discount, you're talking about $800 million just for ventilators. That's for a state that has been, pretty much broke for quite some time. So yeah, I agree.
Well, here's why I disagree, and here's my answer. After this virus is done with, we will be prepared.
Oh, of course. Well, yeah.
So there's no excuse that we were not prepared before. So that
there's a giant stockpile that's being created in the stimulus bill as well.
And it should have been created a year ago. That's my point. 702.
No, it shouldn't.
Yes, it should have.
No, it shouldn't have
So
been,
we
Brian.
shouldn't have been prepared for this?
Not to this degree. We did not expect this to happen. Absolutely.
Really?
Of course,
According to who?
Of course not.
We didn't expect this to happen?
Even David Unger, the last caller that we had, the first case in Italy was on January 19th. I think it was Iran on January 18th. On the 24th, WHO finally decided that the virus was transmittable human to human.
All right, so maybe
we were not ready for this. No country was ready for this, but you're right. This will not take place again. Every single country, especially the United States and United States allies, will absolutely be ready for this if it happens again.
Okay, we got to go back to our phone calls.
Absolutely.
But maybe you could just explain, I don't know if you'll be able to, but a year ago when the administration was spoken to about these issues from the experts and saying we were not ready for a pandemic. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Dwayne. Dwayne, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Dwayne?
Man, check this out. I was understanding that Joe Biden sexual assaulted somebody. I don't know that's not true. Because if Joe Biden was vice president with Obama, why did this person come out then?
We're going to talk about that, Dwayne, coming up later on in the program. So feel free to call back when we bring up that subject, but we're not going to talk about it now.
No, it's like 11:40 probably.
702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Brady. Brady, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Brady?
Good morning, gentlemen. Hey, you guys fail to realize one person who's escaped all the blame is Barack Obama. He did not leave anything for the president. There was nothing he didn't learn from the Ebola virus, the H1N1. Why did he not have mass stockpiled when he handed over the presidency?
So hold on, JD. Hold on, JD. Let me just address Brady here real quickly. At this time and the times that we are in, you want to blame Barack Obama for the situation. I just want to be clear on that. That is your phone call?
Correct.
You want to blame Barack Obama for the situation. And are you being serious or facetious?
He's just saying that there wasn't a stockpile created during the Obama presidency, which clearly there was not, except Apple. Apple somehow, for some miraculous reason, has 10 million N95 masks they just donated. Don't know how they have them. Don't know why they have them, but they do.
Let me be clear on this, Brady. There are some talk show hosts, I don't know who, but I would imagine there are probably some, where if you called into their show, they would say, you know what, Brady, that's a great point. I agree with you. You know what I'm going to say to you, Brady, in blaming Barack Obama for this virus? You are a dummy. You are a moron. And next time you call into the show, I'm not even going to give you 5 seconds. Yeah, bye-bye. Have a nice day. Have a nice day, dummy.
Hey, great call, Brady.
702-257-5396 is the number to call. I'm not even going to entertain calls like that. Let's go to Clyde. Clyde, you're next up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Clyde?
Okay, great show. First time listening to you. A little bit of tidbit. I'm an adult, but in the 90s, I took creative writing courses under Dr. Unger at UNLV.
Really?
Yeah, he has, I tell you, the man is a phenomena. He's all connected with the Blue Mountain group, and he also helped bring writers who were in exile in their country over here to UNLV because he knew Maloff, the head of the Mandalay Bay. So next time
and how many years ago was this, Clyde?
He said mid-'90s.
I'm sorry. So next time he calls, go with that. The man is very humble. He was really the face of the cultural movement, poetry. And like I said, I took creative writing classes of him in the 90s.
Oh, that's cool. Well, Clyde, I wish we knew that before. I would have asked him a few questions about that. But, Clyde, I appreciate that information.
I think he's a fountain of knowledge about so many things. Okay.
No question.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Clyde.
Good call, Clyde. And you're right. He was well-spoken. He was long-winded, and he could have definitely we could have let him finish that hour and a half long histoy lesson about Italy. I would have taken it.
All right, I'm
going to
steal some of your thunder here, JD. You ready for this? Our next caller is Ron. Hey, what's up, Ron?
Hey.
How you doing, Ron?
How you guys doing today? Hey, look,
doing okay.
JD answered my question yesterday, Brian, but I guess you were so pushed for time you couldn't get to my – I wanted your guys' opinion on this. And what I was thinking is what do you guys think if we can satisfy maybe both groups? Like if we can quarantine our own people inside our own states, except for truck drivers and people who need to go state to state, U.S. government, whatever, and then open up the economy so that we can work inside of our own states. What do you guys think about that? That way we get a little bit of both. And the people, we're pretty responsible. Brian's pointed that out, that some of us are quarantining ourselves when we're sick, which is kind of cool. And I wanted to hear what you guys would think about that.
No, I think that social distancing in an open workplace is very possible. I think that honestly, the decision by default we're going to have to do is by self-isolating those who are high-risk groups and letting everyone else because this virus, a lot of people who get the virus, the majority of people who get this virus, actually the super majority of people who get this virus have mild or no symptoms at all. And if they get the virus and they get over the virus, then they can't give it to someone else if another season of the virus comes, which is the concept of herd immunity. I think by default, because the virus is so far along and because we can't risk just imploding the economy and setting it back 20 years, that's what's going to take place. And yes, but it will be a matter of social distancing in the workplace because the place that the virus spreads the most is a small confined space. If you're in a small confined space with someone for 3 to 6 hours, you have a much higher chance of getting the virus than you do just walking past someone in the grocery store.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. I know there's a lot of people on hold. I promise you we will get to all your calls on the other side of the break. We're going to talk a little bit more about the national response. Dr. Fauci making some comments yesterday in regards to Donald Trump, who said that he wants things back to normal by Easter. He also said he wanted large crowds in churches. Dr. Fauci was asked about that, and you may or may not be surprised by his response. We're going to get to that coming up next. We'll also take more of your calls. 702-257-5396. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, is 257-5396. We will take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.